A couple of guys to kind of keep in mind, throughout the rest of the month, um, in terms of recruiting announcements. I mean, tomorrow, Jayden Greathouse, four-star wide receiver, out of Austin, number 17 ranked wide receiver in the country, is committing tomorrow. High school teammate of Jackson Arnold. I think right now, don't be surprised if it's Notre Dame. I think right now, but I do wouldn't be surprised if this is something that Oklahoma continues to work on, and Jackson Arnold himself works on flipping. So even if Oklahoma doesn't get the commitment tomorrow, which I don't expect, we'll continue to monitor that as a guy that could potentially flip. Payton Kirkland, four-star offensive lineman out of Florida, Orlando. This is probably honestly, and just looking at and hearing and just what I've been able to gather from some of the recruiting experts, one of the most bizarre recruiting situations in some time, and really kind of bizarre in terms of being tight-lipped. Like, this kid's committing, I think on the 23rd of July, so a little bit more than a week, and nobody really knows what he's thinking. No one knows what he's doing. I mean, Michigan State, Miami, Florida, Oklahoma are all in the mix. If I had to say something, I think it's probably trending Michigan State or Miami right now, but I mean, who really knows? So that's one to keep an eye on. I wouldn't really hold your, really kind of hold your breath on him, but something that if Oklahoma is able to get him, they're probably done. From an offensive line perspective, they've already got 4. If they get one more, that's in the neighborhood of what they were targeting this year, 4 to 5 guys. And so he's one to keep an eye on. Troy Bowles, four-star linebacker out of Tampa, Florida, number 2 ranked linebacker in the country. We've talked a little bit about him. He is probably There's three. He's got a final 3 of Georgia, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. It looks very, very positive for Georgia right now. Oklahoma's still in the mix. You never know in the recruiting game, but I think he's pretty heavily Georgia right now. So there's some thoughts about Oklahoma maybe just kind of being a hat on the table. But even if Oklahoma loses out on this, these are battles that Oklahoma's not been in. As of recent at the linebacker position and at really key players. And then the last one that I'll talk about here is Derrick LeBlanc. And certainly, if there's any questions about any specific recruits, we can talk through them. But Derrick LeBlanc, 6'4", 270, defensive lineman out of Kissimmee, Florida. He's going to announce on the 28th. I think it's very, very positively trending towards Oklahoma. He's probably Oklahoma's not really got any defensive linemen in the class as of yet. A couple of edge guys, but no true defensive linemen. And so this is a guy that's, like I said, very much trending in Oklahoma's direction. At one point, this looked to be a Florida get, but I think it's really starting to go towards Oklahoma's direction. Right now, and so he would be a guy that probably translates to moving inside in Oklahoma's scheme, top 100 overall nationally, number 77, I believe he ranks number 7 ranked defensive lineman in the country. And then of course there's always questions about David Hicks, and I think we talked about him last week. Can make an argument he's the best overall player in the country. And I mean, let's forget about, there's so much conversation about Arch Manning being is he really the best player overall, or is he, where is he at? I think David Hicks is probably a better prospect than Arch is, but I think there's not a whole lot of information on Hicks. I would say right now Oklahoma and A&M are probably right there in terms of leaders for him. But he's not anywhere near as far along in the discussion. In terms of making an announcement, I would be surprised if he's not a December announcement in some form or fashion. It could even wait to the second, the late signing period. But Oklahoma, I think Oklahoma likes where they're at right now, so I think he's a guy that that Oklahoma will remain in on. Especially Oklahoma, there's probably about 5 or 6, maybe even 7 targets that Oklahoma feels pretty good about on the defensive line. They've just not gotten it's just not as far along in their recruitment, just in terms of the announcements and things like that. So don't be alarmed by Oklahoma's kind of lack of commitments thus far on the defensive line. It'll come. It's just, those kids are more, like I said, they're more kind of in line with later announcements.
David Hicks, yeah, his score is almost perfect on the 247 Sports Composite. He is the top-rated player in the state of Texas, the top-rated defensive lineman, Katy, Texas. Yes, we diced up the scouting report and the profile on David Hicks last week, so please check that out. And yes, Texas A&M apparently in the lead right now out of 39 offers. And David Hicks here just over the past month has visited Oregon, Texas A&M, Miami, and Michigan State. 88 tackles last year, 22 tackles for loss, 13 sacks this past season. So there it is.